Bula Vinaka, and a very good evening to you all. Bula. I'm honored to join my Swedish colleague to welcome you to this important United Nations Conference on Ocean, which is aimed at supporting the implementation of Sustainable Development Goal 14. That goal, as you know, calls for us to conserve and sustainably use the oceans, seas, and marine resources. We thank you all for your commitment and for the preparations you have made for this conference. Your reward will come at the end of this week and in the years to come if we do our work well. Excellencies, for tonight, your reward is the music of the Republic of Fiji Military Forces Band. As many of you know, the Fijian military has given great service to United Nations peacekeeping operations around the world for many years. Tonight, we are pleased to bring our military to this UN operation, not to keep the peace, but to create some joy and share a bit of our culture and hospitality. And I especially want to thank my counterpart, Her Excellency Isabella Lövin, the Deputy Prime Minister of Sweden, and the people of Sweden for their commitment and for their spirit of partnership this important endeavor. We look forward to an intense and productive week that will chart a new course for stewardship of the world's oceans, and every one of us in this room is privileged to play a part. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, today is World Environment Day. What a fun day to commit ourselves once and for all to the health of the lifeblood of our planet, the marine waters that surround and link us all, the great ocean of our planet Earth. This ocean conference is the first UN conference of its kind on this issue ever. But it took us many years to put the world's ocean in their current unhealthy state, and it will take more than one UN conference to set things right. So I ask that we commit ourselves today to continue to meet and share wisdom and take actions to save our oceans. This is a priceless opportunity for all of us, governments, the UN system, NGOs, the scientific and academic communities, the private sector, the media, and the general public to forge the enduring partnerships we will need to reverse the cycle of our ocean's decline. Science has confirmed that our beloved ocean is ailing and that urgent remedial action is required to save it and us. Without a healthy ocean, the quality of life on this planet will deteriorate. Not just for us, but for every living thing, even plants and animals that are many kilometers inland, nestled behind tall mountains or in searing deserts. Even for people who have never once had the pleasure of seeing the blue ocean or inhaling the aroma of sea air. But unfortunately, that is the course that we are currently on. The ocean is our planet's circulatory system. It covers 3/4 of the Earth's surface, contains 97% of Earth's water, and provides more than 50% of the oxygen we breathe. It drives global weather patterns, absorbs around 30% of human-produced carbon dioxide, and serves as a critical buffer to the ever-worsening impacts of global warming. As most of you know, Fiji will assume the presidency of COP23 at the end of this year. And the subject of climate change is very much on my mind, and the subject, as it is on yours. And we know that while the oceans are suffering from pollution, overfishing, and a veritable swarm of refuse littering its surface and its floor, they are also showing the stress of climate change. Coral bleaching, changing marine ecosystems, and destruction of critical shoreline habitats. So the great environmental causes before us, ocean health and global warming, are linked. Simply put, we must deal with pollution, sustainability, and climate change to truly save the oceans. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, this is the first day of a great opportunity for change, real change. So while we deliberate over the coming few days, let us remember the collective mood and the collective good. We all have many narrow interests, but we all have one interest that trumps them all, and that is life. The life of the seas, the life of the planet, the lives of the living things on earth, and the lives of our children and grandchildren. This meeting will serve as a benchmark for future action. 3 or 4 years from now, the global community will gather once again to see how well we are keeping our commitments. With SDG 14, as with all the Sustainable Development Goals, we are not just checking a box. When we meet that goal, we will have accomplished something real and fine, and absolutely necessary. So we must keep striving. It is my hope that we will establish follow-up conferences every 3 years to keep us all accountable to the people of this world. The success of this ocean conference will be shown in the future health of the world's ocean, in the ability of people to earn a sustainable living from its riches, in the disappearance of litter from its surface, and in a global marine ecosystem teeming with life, and of course, in our ability to slow the rate at which the seas are warming. Those objectives certainly cry out for accountable action. In my capacity as co-president of the Ocean Conference and also as president of COP23, I will also be considering ways to carry forward the undeniable and intimate connection between ocean and climate from here right through to the COP meeting in Bonn in November. These issues, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, cannot be separated. We are here this week so that our children, grandchildren, and all those who come after them will know the joy and the sustenance that ocean's boundary can provide. And we are also here for the blameless creatures who inhabit and enrich the marine ecosystems from the shorelines to the ocean depths and from the poles to the equator. We work this week for all of them. Please enjoy the evening, then let's get down to work and make a difference. Pinakabale, when I thank you all.
Dear friends and ocean champions, I'm really, really deeply honored to be able to welcome you all here tonight, together with Prime Minister Voreqe Bainimarama and, of course, in the presence of the Secretary General Guterres and also the President of the General Assembly, Peter Thompson. And looking around this room with all you ocean champions and seeing this competence that is really gathered here in this room, I really, truly believe that we can make this day the real game changer of the oceans that it so desperately needs. Because here we just have the will and the competence, but also the passion for change. And the problems of the oceans that have been repeated over and over again today, and they will be repeated over and over again the next 4 days. And we know that each and every one of them are extremely alarming for the oceans. If you just pick one, overfishing, or if you pick the other one, acidification of the oceans, or if you pick the third one, the plastic litter and the pollution getting into our oceans, and if you pick another one on biodiversity and the need also to support developing countries in order for them and for you to protect and manage and sustainably manage your marine resources, all of these problems, if you put them together, they're really quite overwhelming. But it is a cry of urgency that we hear here at the UN when everyone speaks of these individual problems. But we have to see them all together in order to understand the urgency to actually act upon them. But we can't only talk about the problems. We also need a vision. We also need hope of change. We also have to believe that change is possible. And if you remember Martin Luther King, he didn't say, "I have a problem." He said, "I have a dream." And I think everyone in this room shares the same dream, the same vision. And it's not only about sustainable oceans, it is about the Agenda 2030. So in this beautiful agenda with the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, there we have the dream. There we have the vision. And some might think that it's impossible to realize all these goals and this vision. But together we actually can. So if we have the political will, we have the technology at hand, everything is possible. I think we have to carry that conviction within ourselves that it is possible to actually make change. So this conference is not only about talking about the problems, but it's talking about and agreeing upon the measures and the means that we need in order to actually make the change possible. And in order to believe and understand what Agenda 2030 is, we also need to kind of visualize that, because I remember when the discussion were around, was it going to be 17 goals or 10 goals or 17 are too much? Then you have the 169 sub-targets. That was a really tense discussion, but I'm really happy that we have the 17 goals and the 169 sub-targets. But I think we have here in the room an individual or a team of people that made those 17 goals visual. And that is Jakob Trollbäck, who has really done the now very, very famous goals that you can see as the icons, the 17 icons. And I think the success of the global goals depends also about people knowing about them. And with these visuals, it's very, very much easier to talk about the goals and to make people understand what they're all about. So today, I'm also very happy that Jakob Trollbäck and his team has presented also new icons for the sub-targets. So the 7 sub-targets of the SDG 14 now have their own visuals, and you can see them in that corner over there. So they have done a very, very great job. And before I forget it, I also like to, before I end, acknowledge the co-facilitators of this conference, the ambassadors from Portugal and Singapore. Without them, we would not be here today and we wouldn't have the call for action. So a big, big thanks to them. And I just like to thank everyone that contributed to the more than 700 voluntary commitments that we have registered so far, and hoping for more to come. More than 800 now. Well, that's worth an applause as well. So let's make sure that we remember this day as the day when we turn the tide on the oceans. Thank you.